It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I've got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome to the Daily Gun Show. Oops, welcome to the Daily Gun Show. So we run the show every day for about an hour at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. We talk about guns. We break it up into 20-minute segments, so we keep it topics, got some variety of topics throughout the week. We run it live here on the Daily Gun Show YouTube channel. We're watching the comments live there. We also simulcast it over on gunchannels.com, and we're watching the live comments there as well. Once it's all over, we'll take the audio from this and turn it into a podcast, and we'll post that on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. So we encourage anybody that might be listening to this in the future to leave us some feedback on those platforms. And anybody that wants to leave us feedback directly or give us any comments, questions, or concerns, you can send them to our email address, which is also dailygunshow@gmail.com. With that said, we've normally got Bob joining us from Canada. I think he's having some internet issues. I'm down here in Arizona. We've got Z out in Hawaii and Dano up in Illinois. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Aloha.
I'm in one of the famous flyover states. Of course, that's an oxymoron, but that's another subject for another time.
Let's see. So we break the show up into subjects. We've got gun history today, training, and then we'll talk about firearms events that are coming up. But before we jump into it, we usually dig into whatever might have happened overnight or anything happened in the chats last night.
I wasn't in the chat too long last night. I'm sure there was plenty going on, though.
I think all's quiet on the Western Front, per se, so let's dig in unless you got something.
I do. So our friend Huck at Ghost Town Custom Knives is relocating up to Michigan, and we've been following, some of us have been following his adventure literally on the trip up there and just making the decision and deciding where to relocate. He lived in Payson, Arizona, which is just north of Phoenix, I think most of his life, for a long time at least. And they made the decision to move up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Interesting place to live, and for him, being a custom knife maker who does a lot of his work online, or at least a lot of his customer contact is done through the internet, I think it'll work out really well for him. He found a really cool place, 5 acres with his own pond, lots of trees and stuff. He's already talking about digging or cutting out some trails, I guess. So really looking
You better
forward.
be talking about stacking firewood is what he better be talking about.
I don't know. I won't think I would
he's
use
gonna
5 acres isn't enough to support your place with just your own firewood.
No, it doesn't, as a matter of fact. I just mean he better start cutting and stacking firewood.
But, you know, that far north, there are plenty of owners that either aren't available, can't afford, or maybe are just physically can't do it, that will allow you to come in and cut down some trees, clear trees basically for them, for free, and then you get the firewood.
I don't know if you guys remember, you do usually need to age the wood,
You know,
mostly so it dries out all the way.
I mean, 2 years is preferred, but 1 year sometimes will do, depending on how much rain you got.
I just remember how much firewood we used to have to stack.
How many cords would you say it was?
Depended on the size of the house and where we were living at the time. I can remember lots and lots and lots.
Yeah. I mean, because in theory, there's never enough
firewood when it's 105 outside right now. So basically, we're saying, good job with Huck, or for Huck. It sounds like they're doing what they want to do, and wish them all the success. And if you're interested in checking them out, it's Huck, Ghost Town Custom Knives with just one T, kind of not a hyphenated word, but a unique word. Ghost Town Custom Knives. His father started it, and he's continuing it on, and now they're moving it from Arizona up to Michigan.
Yep. So congratulations, Huck, for seeking out your dream and making it happen.
And sharing it with everybody. Exactly. So we'll get into gun history. So really needed Bob for this one. I don't know if we'll be able to deal with this without Bob. We're talking, or we got the idea from somebody on the gun channels side, I imagine. Case evolution as actions change, or you know, the development of the cartridge itself.
Yeah, actually, Dano and I were talking about this before we started.
Right.
You know, basically, if we're gonna, when you're talking about the actions, you know, you can start the action literally from the hand cannons from ancient China. If you want to go back to or come forward in time all the way up to where, you know, the muzzle loaders and stuff like that, you know, as long as we're still sticking with the different actions. And then we come to the paper cartridge, which wasn't even originally a paper cartridge. It was literally, it had the ball, the powder wrapped up in the paper so that you would you'd bite the one end off, dump the powder in, use the paper cartridge as the wadding, and then put the ball and ram that down. So that's still not technically a case, but that's a different action.
But it was the shipping case or the transportation case.
Well,
As far
I
as how it
imagine.
functioned.
Well, but they loaded a lot of their own back in the day too. It's not like you just went down to the store and bought a case of paper cases, right?
Absolutely. I mean, whether they're buying them or whether they're literally rolling their own, so to speak, they absolutely had to. Especially when you're out in the wilderness, there's no store to stop by, and
Right.
the idea of packing them all, because they are made out of paper and they are inherently easily to tear and so forth, you don't want to wrap them up and get them ready to go until you're actually out there. You don't want to do it 3 weeks ahead of time. And then going up and down hills and valleys and crossing rivers, take the chance of tearing that paper and then spilling powder.
And then, I mean, if we go all the way to like whether we're going to start talking about whether shotguns with the wax paper or the wax coated paper hulls for the shotgun shells, or we talk about whether rolling blocks or trapdoor rifles where, you know, you started to use actual, like Dan was saying earlier, metal cased finally. Or you want to talk about revolvers where it required a rim case for it in order to be able to function correctly. So, I mean, there's definitely...
And the advantage and disadvantage of a neck case.
Right, so the rounds, when they fit, like whether into the magazine or internal magazine, that they rise up through evenly, right? So they don't bind.
Right. They feed without binding upon each other. But yeah, there's a lot of different directions there, you know, and I wasn't quite sure as far as where we wanted to start back in time, as far as what was I'm kind of repeating what Z had said, but looks like Bob may be here. Let's see how his microphone's working.
Hey guys.
Hi, Bob. We were just talking about the first kind of subject that G had mentioned. You were kind of the go-to person on, and that's gun history, case evolution as actions changed. Where were you thinking that would start historically?
Historically, probably with that volcanic, I would think. Volcanic round, which was basically just a hollow base in a bullet, and I'd fill that with powder and a primer.
And that was generally when?
Oh, I don't know what year.
Do you have a century?
Oh, 1800s.
Yeah, it was a mid 1800s maybe.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if it was before. It had to be before the Civil War, right? Because by that time we had... No, I guess we still had powder at that time, cap and ball.
But there were some experimental metallic cartridges around during the Civil War, just not in high volume.
Yeah, and they were mostly like small caliber rimfire.
Yes.
But yeah, there were mechanic cartridges, but I do believe it started with a volcanic because that was just a hollow base on a projectile. It was pretty anemic round, actually.
What was the name of the cartridge that had that little tiny tube sticking out the side?
Pinfire, wasn't it?
Pinfire?
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay.
So they basically just took the anvil from the primer that we use today, moved it instead of it being permanent, like attached to the case, and then hit it into the same kind of priming compound. Just that they did it by moving the anvil instead of smashing it into the anvil like they do now.
Well, there was also the needle fire too, eh? Which I think that was maybe a paper cartridge though. But
That's a paper one that had the pin basically attached to the hammer, right? So
yeah,
like a Nagant hammer.
Right. Yeah. It would drive into the paper cartridge, and there was a primer in the middle of it.
Well, then fast forward in from the evolution from the beginnings going towards the other side. It started with brass, right? I mean, literally the first stuff was brass because I guess it was easy to work with and it was material they had available. So when did they start to develop steel and then the other alloys? Was that all just cost, or is there some benefit to using other metals?
I believe it came down to cost.
So it's just military number production. If it can held up to the use, then you fall into, it seems like, brass still, and then steel and all the aluminums and stuff. I don't think anybody's ever used those with any like issued purpose, right?
No, there's been aluminum bullets, of course, or aluminum cartridges.
Sure, but it's all non-military. It's all commercial, just non-rugged use type of stuff, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and hasn't most of the aluminum usage been fairly recently, as far as the evolution of the case?
That's
Well,
what
yeah.
I was wondering, because I would tend to think that, but then every time we think something's obvious like that, it turns out, it started with aluminum and then it went to brass, or
Right, and that's why I posed the question.
Yeah.
Well, there's nickel and zinc too sometimes that are either coatings or part of the alloy process for the casing itself. Like, for example, what kind of casing does Gold Dot have?
Yeah.
No, I'm asking.
Oh,
It's just brass with a nickel or a chrome polish on it or something.
Okay.
I don't
Now,
think
is that
it's
for
very-
injection or anything like that, where it's smoother and all that kind of stuff?
I would almost suggest it's just marketing, because I don't think it matters that much anymore. I mean, it might have mattered more, it might have been more an issue when things were cruder, but guns aren't that crude anymore.
Yeah, just a comment from the YouTube side, Tony out there saying copper casings were the first, and then he's saying Spencers and Henrys were available during the Civil War, which are metallic cartridges. But again, I think that goes back with they weren't available in large numbers.
right, and the cost too, eh?
Right.
Like
You know,
they had all
new
the
technology always costs a lot of money.
yeah, like most of the Civil War was fought with muzzle loaders, like rifled muskets, just because they had so many of them, eh? And you can't produce. I think it was more a problem with producing cartridges. I know definitely it was for the South. But you can even look back to some of the early British cartridges, and they basically were sheets of copper, I guess, or maybe brass, that were rolled, and then they would have, like, I think a steel or some other type of metal for the base. But yeah, they were very fragile. But still, that was what they had. Eh? Better than paper cartridges. But you can kind of see how it evolved, though. Like the Civil War, like when they were making the paper cartridges for the muzzle loading rifled muskets, you can see how that thinking could go. Well, gee, we're making it with paper and that. Now, what if we just added the primer in the back and made it out of something a little more robust than paper? So yeah, you can see how it develops in 2020 hindsight now.
And it takes that insight to say, okay, this is a disposable thing that goes away when you shoot it, into, well, let's get rid of this thing every time we shoot it, and then let's incorporate the cost of this thing we're throwing away every time we shoot it. And then I don't know when they developed a cartridge, if they figured out, because they were handy and frugal, that let's make this thing reloadable, or if it just was a function of it having to be assembled that you could reassemble it. Do you know?
I think the early ones were pretty much throwaways.
I'm sure that for the economy part of it, they'd say, "Oh no, just throw this thing away."
Yeah.
No,
Well,
no,
especially
reuse it,
rimfire.
send it back to us or something.
Yeah,
But yeah,
like
fires, they were definitely difficult to reload. I mean, anything's possible, so you can't say they can't be reloaded, but it's more difficult than others. But then once you get into the standard primer, it's easier to assemble, so it facilitates it being made in mass production and being less expensive and more available. But then, like I say, because you can take it apart and put it back together again, that spurned, that whole reloading thing out of it. So,
and that was probably a lot of that drive to do that was because people who were maybe out west or something, they wouldn't be able to buy store-bought cartridges.
and just use them once.
Yeah.
Or at least it cost a lot. So, yeah, I wonder if the development stopped with what we've got now because of those aspects of it. Because obviously you could probably come up, if we would have let the Germans keep doing things, there'd be about 14 parts to it in each cartridge. And there'd be like no way to use any of them again. So imagine it stopped there because of that aspect of it, that you can reload it. And it's probably, as far as economy, probably a good mix of people who don't think about that kind of stuff and leave them, which makes it very economical for people to get their components, or at least a portion of their components, at no cost, basically. Somebody else is buying it for them, leaving it there.
Exactly.
But then, since we're talking cartridge or cases specifically, have you seen the polymer cases? They have a brass rim. Think of a shotgun shell, except bring it down to a 223. So you can get 5.56 and 223 in the plastic or polymer cartridges.
I have not seen that.
They started coming out. First time I saw them was maybe in like 2007 or 8 at SHOT Show, and they were like they're supposed to be cheaper, I guess. I really think that's the way to go. We already know that they work for shotguns, so it's just a matter of shaping them a little bit differently. I don't know about reloading them. I think you can reload them once, maybe. But once they go to spec, they can't be reshaped as easily as the polymer, at least with the existing machines. But I imagine maybe with a heated press or something, you might be able to just press those things back into shape. Who knows?
So at SHOT Show, were they marketing them as like range ammo?
Yeah, I think they were like low-cost training ammo.
Okay.
Or maybe they were even performance ammo. I really don't remember, honestly. I wasn't buying anything. That was the years when I was still just trying to let people, or talk people into let me take pictures with a regular camera back then. So a lot of our effort was just seeking out people that were amenable to that. They were actually okay with it. They let us take some pictures, but we weren't at the top of our game, or we were like asking them pertinent questions about their part in the community or anything. I think it was basically, though, the cost more than anything. I don't think they were trying to say that it was better ammo. They were just trying to say that it's feasible and it's less cost. But I'm all about that. I think it's crazy that we're sitting around using old-fashioned stuff from the early part of the last century to, is that right? Or is it the other part of this century still? No.
Well, but on the other hand, brass is recyclable, reusable, where plastics, we already know we have a problem with excess plastics literally floating around the world. So.
Yeah, that's only historically. If we made plastic with an eye to not being UV resilient and instead being UV susceptible, whatever, where they actually.
You're breaking up there. Okay, are you back, G? Okay, maybe not. I'm going to try to finish his thought for him and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what he was trying to say is that if we keep an eye towards advancing the polymer technology so that it doesn't necessarily break down when exposed to UV light, we can have something that is much easier to then properly dispose of or properly reuse. So
yeah, except you want it to break down in UV light.
Well, that not necessarily, Bob. I mean, the oceans are full of that right now.
No, what he was saying is if it did break down, right now they're being made UV resistant so they don't break down. That is the problem. That's what G was talking about. He was basically saying that if they change it to where it does break down in UV more readily, then it'll be more easily disposed of.
Yeah, it'll just dissolve.
Does that work any better?
Yes, you're
Yes,
fine.
much better. Yeah, if it got broken down to the molecular level, then yes. But it has to literally get that small.
I'm saying get rid of any UV protection so that when idiots just leave their shit around, it just disintegrates into the dust. You've just got the brass that you can pick up
Okay.
instead of all that plastic. But on the other end, you could go the other way and make it more resilient, and then just again make some sort of a heat thing, oven type of press that reforms your
Well,
cartridges.
what if they could use cellulose instead of plastic?
Well, that's always an option. Exactly, that's a great idea.
That would be the way.
Well, I mean, look at the direction they were trying to go in, which was caseless ammo, right? Where there was nothing to eject. I mean, other than the bullet got ejected out the front, but other than that, there was just nothing left of the propellant. You know, they've tried that, and I think it's still a viable idea. Just because of if anything, it's going to be that much lighter to carry. You know, imagine like most of the weight of your round is, or a lot of the weight is your case, not your bullet.
Of your overall ammo, yeah, it's going to be definitely a high percent.
Yeah.
So I think we've solved it. We've brought cases from before there was even guns all the way up to the future. Obviously, we know the future there won't be guns because we won't need them.
There'll be phasers.
Oh no, not in Hillary's future.
Well, I can be hopeful. Don't crush my hope.
Yeah, not for the regular people. There might be phasers for the police and the military.
And the elite.
Yeah. Well, their guards will have to have them, yes.
All right. But G's right, we've solved that problem. So where are we on to?
So that'll lead us into the second segment of the show. But between the first and second segment, we always like to break and mention one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a website we built a while back. It's a community focused on firearms. Join it as a member. It's free to do. Or if you like the place a lot and you want to help support it, it's completely supported by the membership, and it's $12 a year. You can join it. I think it's PayPal. And then, anyway, you do whatever you want over there. We've been talking about the trading post a lot lately because it's been pretty active. There's the question and answer area that we don't talk about so much on the show here, but we should probably start addressing because it's pretty active as well lately. And then we've got, of course, the live stuff and the channels. The big aspect of Gun Channels is the channels. You can create one for your own adventures, or what might I say, a brand or something that you're trying to develop on YouTube or Instagram or as a podcast like this one. Or if you've got a shop, gun shop, or some sort of a manufacturing some kind of product, or you're thinking about doing some kind of small business out of your home, consider Gun Channels a great place to create or enhance your efforts. So anyway, in order to keep an eye on that, we mention or we focus on a member every day. And this week, there's no rhyme or reason to them. It was just a bunch of people that happened to be online when we were filling out the schedule. And today it's Hawaii Volcano Squad, HVS as we call them. Another one of our active Hawaiians. Keep us up to date on what's going on in the Pacific. And sounds like I'll be able to meet up with him next weekend, or next week maybe. He'll be out in California. Not my job to tell you all his personal business, but he happens to be visiting the mainland. And I'll be happening to go behind enemy lines next week at the, I don't know if we're calling this, if I should start calling this one of the legs of the tour, but I'm going to drive 1,000 miles into California, check out gun shops of San Diego, go shooting with HVS and Big Gunner and, no, Heavy, what am I saying? Yeah. Heavy and Smeggy's out there.
Smeggy.
Right, and then hopefully meet up with the Firearms Policy people. So anyway, it's kind of cool that HVS turned out he's going to be out there at the same time doing his business. So we'll be able to say hey. But he's out on a different island than Z is. And we tend to think as Hawaii is like everybody knows each other because they live on an island. But from what I understand, looking at maps and whatnot, which is a little tough sometimes because they're not always to scale. But am I wrong, Z? If you were to take Hawaii up out of the ocean, where it floats around on, and then slap that down on top of the United States, like if a big storm happened and it got pushed up onto the United States, it would run from like California over to Illinois, right? It's substantial. I think he would have said, yep. And then...
no.
It's not that big? I thought it was that big.
No, I was going to say, when you look at a map like that, it's like the Mercator projection Basically, the closer you get to the equator, the more compact it gets and the more away from it. That's like why Greenland on a map looks like it's a monstrosity, right? I think it would be closer to say that one end of Hawaii to the other end of Hawaii might be more like from California to New Mexico, maybe.
Okay, well, still, it's not as long as I think, but that's
I
still
consider that huge, considering the actual landmass.
because that would take you 2 days of hard driving and like 3 days of regular driving probably to get from California over to New Mexico. Maybe 2 days, more realistic. So anyway, it's a distance. So when I think of Hawaii, I think of as a big island. Well, let's start talking to you guys more. It's a big island, and some of you were on one side, and some of you were on another side. They filmed the Brady Bunch on one place, and they filmed Hawaii Five-0 on some other place, and then Pearl Harbor happened at one place, and that y'all knew each other because y'all lived on an island. But it turns out it's a whole bunch of islands that are nowhere near each other. So you being on one island and him being on another, there's like no chance of you guys ever really meeting. It's like me meeting somebody in Flagstaff, just because we live in Arizona. That's about the only commonality we've got, right?
Right.
So anyway, that was neat because I guess we just don't think about Hawaii very much. You know, something happens out there. Unfortunately, the only time we hear about stuff happening out there is when they're infringing on you guys. But
at least they're consistent.
Well, we can change that, and it gives us something to resist against. And I still think we've got an angle on Hawaii and Nevada more than we have on California and Washington and Oregon, because nobody wants to go to California, Washington, or Oregon, really. They're boring. But you've got Nevada with Las Vegas and Reno, and then you've got Hawaii with everything it has. So I think as people who are potential tourists, we've got a little bit more to say, or a little bit more clout with our out-of-state feedback. So I think Hawaii is definitely one of the valid interests in anybody's strategy on trying to fight anti-Second Amendment bullshit, tyranny.
Yeah.
Anyway, we do appreciate people who are members of Gun Channels, and specifically HVS today, and then I guess
Hawaii,
all the guys in Hawaii for bringing us that insight. You're breaking up again or something?
No, you're fine. Just
all right. So that was the segment between the first and second. That was the transition between the first and second segment. So now we'll be talking about ammo again, interestingly. Steel case versus brass case as far as training ammo, training segment today. So what do we think?
I like steel case for training just because then I don't have to worry about picking it up and
well, there's a cost difference usually between the two.
Difference, yeah.
Now, depending on what you're utilizing or what firearm you're utilizing will determine how well it functions with steel cased as opposed to brass ammo. So sometimes that's one thing that you have to consider, especially if your firearm does not cycle steel case well.
Oh, that's a good point. I never thought. I mostly shoot like milsurp, so they're all made for it.
And then, since most training involves shooting a large quantity of ammunition, are you or do you know a reloader? I mean, that's going to factor in as far as trying to recoup some of that money and turn that brass into actual ammunition later on.
Oh, I mean, if you're a reloader, then of course shoot with brass because you can then roll your
Because you can reload.
Yeah.
Well, Matt has an interesting point out there. You know what we're talking about? This is the training segment, right? He made the point that some ranges won't even let you use steel. I haven't been to those ranges, but I know that they are. I am aware that they are out there.
And there are, I think they're mostly indoor ranges that won't allow you to pick up your own cartridges because they want to reclaim it for themselves.
Yeah. Now I've never ever heard of that. Like I don't.
Oh, that's a thing. That is a thing. Tony on the YouTube side does say though that if your gun won't cycle steel, get a different gun. Now, I mean, I know that's easy to say, and he's right. I think he's right 100%. If it's not going to cycle it reliably, then what's the point, I guess? But I will also concede that it's not as easy for some people to just go out and go in a different direction.
But it definitely, in an ideal situation.
Since we're talking training ammo, let's talk about a case of steel versus a case of brass Is there about $100 difference between the two on 1,000 rounds?
Are we talking AK ammo?
It doesn't matter. Are we talking? Let's talk AR ammo then.
Oh, you're definitely talking around $100.
So $100 for every 1,000 rounds. You take three classes that take 1,000 rounds approximately, or the equivalent training if you get the philosophy of Yankee that you don't need to have an expert teach you anything. So you spend 3,000 rounds, so that's $300, and you saved how much on that gun that can't shoot steel?
Right, $300. And for those that have not taken classes, what G is saying about 1,000 rounds for a training class is not unusual to fire that or possibly more.
Not at all. Yeah.
1,000 is a low-end rifle class, so I mean you're going to shoot 1,000 rounds if you're out there trying to improve and get skill. So we're talking training ammo. If you can buy a gun that can run steel because it's a better gun, I'm going to say BCM, right? Something like that. Something that isn't going to foul up when you're running brass or steel through it. I can buy steel 223 when I'm buying my 7.62x39, and I'm sure, I don't know if I've saved the money on my whole gun in just training, but if I would have been training this whole time or shooting competitively and training for that, practicing, I'm sure I would have saved over the long run more money by being able to buy the steel when I can, because now I can buy whichever's cheaper. I don't have to buy just whatever I can run.
And having that flexibility to me is key, because you're already buying something that's not inexpensive in the first place, and being able to be able to have the choice in the future of buying either steel or brass, especially if availability is sketchy. Then it's about what's available, period. You don't have to worry about, gee, there's only steel available and yours can't run steel.
Well, also, since we're talking about training and you're talking about saving $100 on a case, well, basically, depending on what the class is that you're trying to train in, you could almost say, you know, buy 4, get the 5th class free almost, because if it's $400 or $500 for the class itself, you know, if you're saving 100 or so on each time you're buying that steel, or you know what I'm saying, you see where I'm going, gentlemen? It's like basically at some point after you've recouped the money on paying for the extra money on the firearm itself to get the quality firearm, and you continue to do so, you continue to take classes, well then at some point that money can be put towards more classes.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So now let's talk about steel versus brass in a training scenario where you're out there having to shoot a bunch to get better, or to practice for a training or for a competition or something. You're out there shooting all day. Now you get to bend over and pick up brass. So if you need the exercise and you like the deep knee bends or whatever, awesome. Or if you have a little kid, you can do it. I guess it's not an issue. But the rest of us, I take my gun magnet, one of these real powerful magnets they make for attaching to a piece of wall or underneath the desk or whatever, and you can use it to mount a firearm or a knife or a hatchet or something. I take one of those and I put a 550 cord through one of the grommets on it, so that I don't have to bend over. And then I usually take a box of whatever ammo I was shooting and put it around the thing, and then I just walk around and drag that thing on the ground, and it magnetically attaches all the steel. So I'm walking around dragging this thing on the ground. Every once in a while I pick it up, and with the box on there it makes it super easy to just pull them all off into the garbage can, walk around a little bit. However much I'm shooting, doesn't matter how much I shoot, I'm always faster to pick up my crap than everybody else is picking up their brass. So for that aspect of it, steel is a dream. And if you're one of the assholes that just leave your shit there, brass or steel just eventually rusts and turns into nothing. So if you're a typical lazy jerk, not typical, but if you're one of them lazy jerks that doesn't even pick up your shit and leaves a big scar and residue and trash for every anti-gunner, dog walker, horseback rider, mountain biker to see and hate shooters about, if you're that kind of person, then at least it's going to rust and go to nothing. You're not just wasting a resource like brass.
Well, like at our range, they're in between when it's cold range time and after all the, I think after all the targets have been changed and everything like that, you've been allowed to go and come back and cross the line again. Basically, then they do, I say allow an amount of time, like, all right, pick up your, police your brass is what they say, and you need 2 minutes to police your brass. Now, I know some people just pick them up and throw them in the in the bucket, not necessarily the trash if it's brass for the Valley Isle sports shooter guys, or they're picking them up for their friends or themselves, for reloading. Now, when it's steel, though, I do notice that they just kind of kick it over the edge. Now, this is at a regular firearms range where it's not like she was saying, where the horseback rider or the cyclist or the hiker is literally going to walk by. And I know that at some point what they do is they either use like the rake, literally, or the shovel or something to that effect, and they just get rid of all of it. Now, I haven't seen them use a big magnet, but I'm sure that would be the smartest thing they could do when they do have all of that. Other than that, I see like the roller ball or like a dust broom and the little dust pan with the extension handle.
Yeah, you know what actually people use and that seems to work really well is you can get it if you're a roofer, well I guess if you're working construction trade, but it's got 2 wheels on it and it's a big magnet about 16 inches long and maybe 3 or 4 inches wide. Looks like a big broom. But yeah, that works really slick. You just wheel it
nails
around.
on a job site, and that's what I was going to suggest. If you've got a range that people are mentioning, and they've talked to ranges that don't let them shoot steel cased ammo. So there's a difference between steel core ammo. If you're in an indoor range shooting downrange with steel core, they might have issues with, depending on their backstop or their rules or whatever, they may have a different issue with the projectile having steel in it. So let's not talk about that, but instead talk about the steel cases, which is what we're talking about. If you've got a range that has some issue with you shooting steel case, and it has to do with them sorting the brass, if they just sweep it all forward and they're suggesting that they need to sort it, and that makes it difficult, so they, instead of dealing with it in another way, they just restrict the use of steel case. Consider what Bob just said. Go into the Home Depot or even Harbor Freight makes another type of magnet that's for the same purpose for construction sites where you're picking up your screws and nails that might have fallen around. You can get this thing that kind of about a little bit smaller than a coffee can, and it's got like one of them grip things on it, like a grip strength thing, and it's a magnet inside of a little can, and you go around, it's like an aluminum can, you go around, you rub it on the ground, it picks up all the screws, or in this case steel case ammo, and then when you squeeze that thing, it pulls the magnet up out of the can, and then releases all the nails or whatever into the trash. So you just get your range, bring one of those to the range. They cost you like $10 or something. Ask them if that will help them. Then when they scoop up all their brass and they've got it in a 5-gallon bucket, they literally just dump that thing in there a few times and stir it around. All the steel case ammo gets attracted to it. They pull it out, hold it over the garbage can, squeeze it, all of them fall out. They repeat that process a few times, and the steel case is no longer an issue. So if they're really just so dumb or lazy they don't know about magnetism, then I would suggest taking a $10 tool over there. If they seriously have a fit about it and they still won't do it, all that happens is now you have a way to pick up brass when you're out shooting at wherever you end up shooting anyway, because you're still going to shoot your steel case ammo.
Oh yeah, perfect. Yeah.
All right, well, so I guess we've solved cases and magnetism, so let's keep on this roll. So everybody's, unless anybody had anything else to add about steel case ammo versus brass.
I think steel versus brass, I think we pretty much wrapped up.
I think we should mention we sound pretty pro-steel here. Obviously, I think we're all just assuming everyone realizes the benefit of brass is that most of the time it's made here in the U.S., which is nice. Steel case ain't, and then you can reload it. So it's definitely more practical in the long run if you're going to be reloading to with one you can reload, right?
Right.
So we're definitely not biased one way or the other. However, we will be biased definitely one way or the other when some kind of ammo manufacturer starts supplying us with free ammo. We will definitely be biased for your ammo, and you can contact us at thedailygunshow@gmail.com. There's 4 of us, so we're going to need 4 times the amount of free ammo you normally get out, but we will shoot that ammo eventually.
And he didn't say that we would be. He didn't say that you would buy us. He said that we would be biased.
Biased. He said we're not buying anything. We want to be given ammo in order to sway our preference towards your brand or whatever.
So email your bias to dailygunshow@gmail.com.
And then what else is it keeps that ammo off the streets.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
And it puts it in the berm.
Oh yeah. Or in the desert somewhere.
All right. Well, so between the second or the next segment here, I figured I would take a minute to mention the new pit crew patch. We just got the
It looks awesome.
samples in, so I'm gonna try to screen share it here. I think it'll
It
work.
looks awesome. I saw it on Instagram this morning. First thing when I got up, it's fantastic, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. It's it's No's idea, I think, and then we were having one of our kind of van chats in the gun channel lobby, I think, just kind of talking about the van, or was it a van chat? I guess I don't remember now. But it was. I'm pretty sure No came up with the idea of a tire, and then a couple people said, added to it. So yeah, we did the art up, and I think it looks pretty sharp. And then I'm trying to grab another view of it so you can see like these are three-dimensional a little bit. So
and that was a perk, yes. That's not going to be available to just buy the patch, correct?
well,
or am I
mean,
mistaken?
It's a perk on the thing, so it's still available. These are being made, we're making a bunch of them. So that's what it looks like from the side. Just wanted to show you. It looks like the little lugs and stuff are kind of.
I mean, it all could be misconstrued as a Death Star.
No.
Look like a tire. So let's see. Do we have a link to it? I guess I can just jump to it. The campaign is over, but the way that Indiegogo works is you can leave it up as a fundraising thing for the project if it's that type of project. And since this is a ongoing project, and we're having a bunch of the donuts made and a bunch of the tires made, it's still up and running. And if you wanted to grab one donut, you can. They're $15. The van pit crew, I'm not able to add a picture to it because people have already participated in that one. You can't edit it once people have started using it. But basically that's the one. So it's a $25 patch, which obviously is more than the patch cost, but it's a fundraising thing. And then you can get all three of the donuts. So those, and then there might be a couple of these still featured, so like the feature a shooting shop, range or feature a shop or whatever. But if you want to grab a patch, there are still the donuts, which are in production now, and the pit crews would be right here. So anybody that wants to participate still, please feel free. Anybody that wants to participate without paying anything, without buying anything, please consider sharing the project, because the more people that find out about it, the more word of mouth it gets, and the more people potentially that want to grab a patch can, and that puts more gas in the tank, so we can go farther. And I know that works because I just got contacted from a gun shop in California that had just seen one of Yankees' videos. So I know that the sharing helps in the long term, not just, I only get 2 hits when I post something on Facebook, or nobody watches my stuff on YouTube. Once it's out there, it's a hook in the water, and there's that chance that somebody coming by is going to notice it, and that link gets them over there. So we do appreciate anybody that wants to help share the project like that.
And if you're interested in putting a quarter in the chip jar, so to speak, as far as supporting this show, supporting the gun, the tour that G-Webs is going to be going on, I would recommend you go to patreon.com. Just simply put in Daily Gun Show, and you'll look. You can simply put in $1 per month, and you figure, we're getting a daily show for a whole month, so that's 20 shows. If you put in $1, how much is that per show? It's virtually nothing. So if you like what you hear,
a nickel.
Yeah, a nickel per show. That's what you would be paying.
And it came out to a nickel.
If you feel you're getting at least that value, throw $1 to help keep the lights on, because it does cost money to keep the servers going, to keep the domains paid for, to keep the bandwidth up. And there's also, if you're interested in doing a little bit more support, like let's say you're really into the patches and you want to get some unique patches that are only available through supporting this and other programs, simply go to the site. You'll see there's various pledge levels and different tokens of appreciation in regards to patches that you can get.
Now,
and again, you can turn it off at any point if you decide that, what, this is not my thing. No harm, no foul, just turn it off, you're all good to go. So don't feel like it's a permanent commitment.
Since we're talking about the Patreon thing and that $12.99 patch of the month, and there's only 2 people that participate in that at the moment, and we just posted that the patch sew out, the quick patch sew out of Matt's Never Enough Ammo. His what's that thing?
Ash.
Yeah, but I forget the name of the movie he's in.
Evil Dead.
It's the Evil Dead logo. We can't sell that logo. People, I said in the video a million times, I can't sell this. Matt totally stole it. He knows it. We know it. Even if one time I took it to a patch place and they're like, hell no. So it's not something we can mass produce. But there's only 2 people in the patch thing, so I can sew 2 of those. It might take a couple hours, but just saying. The Patreon thing might be an avenue for people that are interested in unique patches that cannot be sold or will not be sold.
And personally, knowing one of those people, I suggest that is a fantastic idea.
Biased.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm completely biased on that.
But I also want to encourage people at the other end of the spectrum that, you know, I realize money is tight for everybody, but I don't think if you find this show valuable, that throwing $1 a month in the tip jar is asking too much.
And it would help us in a couple ways. Obviously, the money is nice, but it would help encourage us, the 4 of us, which is always a good thing, but we're pretty encouraged. We're going to be here whether or not you know that. But when we go to try to get people to help us out, like the free ammo or whatever, the more numbers we have, the more metrics we can point at, the more support that we have, because it's, you know, shown on the various social media platforms like that. That gives us a little more clout and makes it a little easier for us to do our thing, and we can not beg people, but I'm just trying to think that, you know, we don't want to make this thing it's capitalist, so we have to talk about that side of it, and we do want to. I'd rather have the audience support us so that we can say whatever we want, but, you know, we're going to try to go towards things like more like a Coca-Cola or a Nike shoes. Obviously, neither one of those 2 companies, but something that's more generic than, let's say, I don't know, XYZ brand pistol. Because then every time we talk about XYZ brand pistol, people are suspect, and then every time we talk about 123 brand pistol, people are suspect. So we'd rather keep all that out of there, and in order to attract some of those sponsors who might be an energy bar or I don't know, something else, a running shoe or whatever it might be, a boot or something that's not going to be gun related. Like I said, those metrics will help us because we'll be competing with all kinds of other media platforms out there, established shows and whatnot. And obviously, we're not emulating another show that's out there. We're trying to create new stuff, and we're trying to do it in a way that encourages and inspires people to do their own stuff, so that we not only take over this social media, this internet that's available to us, but we don't just take it over like Bloomberg by paying somebody who knows how to manipulate it currently, but instead we change the freaking whole dynamic by using the platform each as individuals. Our power is the NRA, if you want to look at it that way, is that it's a system of 5 million members who participate, both with their money and their time and their efforts. We can multiply that by the number of people that use the internet, you know, versus the number of people that are in the NRA. We're unstoppable, and we have the ability, and we're working on things. We grow all the time as in our abilities to get consistent, good information out. And as more people are involved and more people know the nuts and bolts, we all win. So anyway, that's sort of the goal, and that's the reason why we.
That's not why I'm here, G. I'm sorry. I'm going to humbly disagree. I'm here to see our enemies, to crush our enemies, see them driven before us, and hear the lamentation of the women. Now, the lamentation of the women would be our competition. Our enemies would be the competition. I'm here to help make this show crush the competition. And that's all I got to say about that.
Okay.
All right. And on that note,
let's talk about.
That's right. It is time for the infamous.
Flashbacks every time that happens.
Okay, what did we rebrand this? I forgot to write it down.
What?
What do you mean? It's the Tactical Pop Quiz.
Tactical Pop Quiz. Okay, I thought we came up with another idea. Okay, Tactical Pop Quiz for today. All right. The way this works, if you haven't been here before, is Z Island, or Island Z, is going to keep an eye on the YouTube side. I will keep an eye on the gun channel side for the first answer to the following question. So get your keyboard ready, and here we go. With current .40 caliber bullets, what is the lightest and heaviest common bullet weights? So that's what you need to type in. With the current .40 caliber bullets, what is the lightest and heaviest common bullet weights?
Who will be the pop quiz hot shot of the day?
Of the day.
Oh, I got Dano. Could you
Okay.
make your
Winner.
Dot.
Yep. Were you watching both sides?
I always
Yeah.
watch both
Nothing
sides.
on
Oh, I
YouTube.
didn't know that. I thought you were just watching YouTube.
There's nothing on the YouTube site yet.
Yeah, we got DF2 dot nailed it instantly, first time. Congratulations,
Tony answered, but by that.
2 dot. So DF2 dot, simply go to dailygunshow.com/popquiz, fill in your information, and you are today's winner. Congratulations. Once again, that's for your
The pop
prize.
quiz hot shot of the day.
Yep.
Now, he apparently did say that he's a 40 guy, so basically that's how he knew that so readily, I believe. And the answers are 165 grain and 180 grain is what the panel of experts have come to accept as the
Yes.
correct answer.
Yes, and I specifically put in the word common for that exact reason, because we realize there are some little heavier, some little lower, that sort of thing, but as far as what's regularly available, that's what we determined is the answer.
And when he says we, he means he, but that's all right. We got Dano's back.
Well,
Any-
I specifically remember historically there was a little conversation on this question, but we straightened it out, we had an agreement, and all is well.
Any complaints on the validity of the answers can go to Dano at Gunshot.
There you go.
Email.
Just send them to just Dano.
Just Dano, yeah.
Yep. But any other questions, send to dailygunshow@gmail.com.
All right, so that'll take us into the firearms events that are coming up. I think we're doing okay on time. So
We're doing
once
good.
a week we like to address the firearms calendar. We'll be doing more and more in this in the future, but the idea is to let people know who might be traveling, that the events that are coming up. Let people know who lives near some of these things that these events are happening, in case you haven't heard. So we'll list off a bunch that we've got here on our calendar. We have this over on the calendar at Gun Channels. Many of these are also on the Every Second Matters calendar. Some of these are on the calendar over at the AK47 Buyer's Guide. I've got guncalendars.com where we post a bunch of these as well. So again, it's crucial, at least in my mind, I believe it's crucial for us to not just sit around liking guns, because that does nobody any good. When we sit around liking guns and buying them, yeah, that does some good to the community, I guess, or the industry. But until we get out, walk around, and interact with other people, we're not doing ourselves or our community that much good in this respect that we can network a lot on the internet, but it's hidden for the majority. It can be overlooked, it can be ignored, and it can be unfound by the people that are looking for us. So one of the best ways to get out there and get found is by getting the other types of media to pay attention to us, and you can do that by uniting and getting together and standing in the same place on the earth. And some of those events are like the one this weekend in San Diego. There's another pro Second Amendment rally. Obviously, they have a lot of work to do in California. Part of that work is gathering your resources and getting information out. And we're doing our little part to keep people aware of the Second Amendment rallies. This one is going to be in San Diego, and I don't have the details right here. Hopefully somebody can send them to us that's watching live, and we'll add them to the Gun Channels calendar. But that's the kind of event where it happens on a more, I don't want to say spur of the moment, but on a more less than annual basis. Potentially like this one, they've been having them weekly. So hopefully they'll have another one next weekend when I'm in California, because I would like to attend one. And I'll say again that it doesn't matter what state you live in. A head in the crowd is another warm body, and when the cameras, no matter which what perspective or what point of view they're coming at you, they can't deny that there's bodies there when there's bodies there. So it's ultimately crucial. We live in a country that is built on the idea of coming together in times of need, and it doesn't count to come together on the internet. This helps us facilitate the actual coming together, but at some point it's time to come together, and we can wait until after the threat is on the table as a bill in the House, like we did in 2013 as a reaction to 2012, or we can stand up and become known as a voting member of the population on both sides, on all three parties' radars, and and we do that by getting out there. So I'm going to do my part by mentioning it every week in the show. We'll talk about it daily when we know about stuff. We'll encourage people to add to our list so that we can help amplify whatever action you're trying to take there or you're aware of in your area. And then on top of that, I'm going to be driving around looking at stuff with the help of everyone who's already put gas in the tank for us to do that. So anyway, that's that type of activity. But then we have all the fun stuff too. It's not an obligation, or it's not solely an obligation with firearms. It's not solely a responsibility. It's also one of the most ultimately fun things to grow your skills and your knowledge and your abilities, right? So some of the ways that we can celebrate that aspect of the shooting community is with some of the exposition shoots. We've got one coming up in September in Illinois, the Firearms
Bullpup shoot, yeah.
Sponsors their bullpup shoot. I think it's their, I should probably figure it out already. It's their third or fourth. I know they've been doing it for a while. The next one on my radar is the Gun Rights Policy Conference on the 24th of September in Tampa, Florida. It's when all the pro-gun owners' rights organizations come together, do a sit rep. They tell you what they've been up to, what they are doing now, and what they see they might need in the future, or what they see as issues in the future. Then there's strategy sessions. There's well, and the first time I got to experience it was last year here in Phoenix, and it was 600 people in a room together, and the energy was exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that. If you can get yourself to it, it's basically free. It's put on by the Second Amendment Foundation. It's one of those quiet things they do for the last 30 years that they never get credit for. They bring all these organizations together that are interested in showing up and aren't just bullshit places to exploit gun owners and separate them from their money, because there are a few of those. And anyway, you get to experience those people in a room together, and you end up getting potentially turned into an advocate like me. I went from advocate to super advocate. Anyway, that's a super exciting thing to experience, and if you're not going to be able to travel to it, we'll be there. I'll be there. I'm trying to get Dano down there. We can somehow miraculously figure out a way to get Bob down there by airplane. We'll do it, and then it's not out of the question to get Z up in an airplane and over there, although he'll fight him. So we'll have to do something like they do on the A-team, right? We'll have to somehow give him an attractive bacon-filled treat that has some sort of a pill in it, and then he'll wake up at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. But anyhow, that's the one coming up on the 24th. Then the next thing on my radar is the Iraqi Veteran Range Day. It's not open to everybody, but if you're listening to this and you create content, write them a freaking email. They're not going to bite your head off. They're there to unite manufacturers and cool stuff with content creators and help content creators be bigger and better. They're doing good stuff over there, so I know it's not open to the public, and I don't want to suggest that I have any way to get you into it, but you have a way to get yourself into it. So if that's one of your goals, do it. I know so many people that have wanted to go to that thing and then gone to it. You can start listing them off. Stone Guy, Ballistic, Marco. I'm not sure, is Pink going down to it with them this year? So
yeah,
there's a lot of people that want to go to that thing, to get determined and take action and then go to that thing. So thanks to Eric and the rest for doing that. What is this, their 6th year? I don't know, they've been doing this longer than anybody. They're the first ones.
I was going to go 3 or 4 at least, but it could be up to 6.
Just after that, if you happen to be in New Mexico and you're interested in science or world history, the site where the first nuclear weapon was ignited, or I don't know what they call it, but Trinity site is open to the public twice a year. October 1st will be the next one. You have to be there for that, obviously. The next thing on my radar is the Big 3 shoot in October. That's back in Florida, just north of, is it Orlando? I don't really know where it is. But I don't think it's open to the public either. But again, it's there to unite manufacturers and
content creators.
And it's more than just YouTube people, so it's a little bit different than the Iraq Vet one. And then it has different people show up, I suppose. Anyway, again, it's not open to the public, but if you're a content creator and that's one of your aspirations, then keep in mind that it happens in October, and maybe contact them. I don't have any clue if you're able to get into that or not, but at least you know that it's in October, and you can at least stay tuned for the videos that'll be produced at that. Now we're talking exposition shoots that you can be a part of, and you can definitely attend. You've got the Knob Creek Machine Gun Shoot on October 14th. That's in Knob Creek, Kentucky, which is kind of over by the west end of Kentucky, right? And it means exposition shoot means you sit there and watch a bunch of people do cool stuff, and every once in a while you can rent or buy some trigger time, I believe.
Is that the same Knob Creek that the bourbon is named after, do you believe?
I think it's the same area, like same neck of the woods, but I don't think they, obviously, I don't think the
Well,
range.
yeah, clearly I didn't mean that the range was related to the.
But I think that means Knob Creek, Kentucky, like that area.
Just
I think it's just that
geographically
point
only.
to Kentucky where it pokes the Mississippi.
Okay, cool.
But I know absolutely nothing about Kentucky. Except that Daniel Boone went there, came from there.
The rifle.
So, oh yeah, there's a Kentucky rifle too. So, the next thing on my radar is the Texas Firearms Festival. A little bit different than the other three, but then the other two I mentioned there, the other two exposition shoots, but a little bit different in the respects that it's more like a gun show mixed with the firearms, with an exposition shoot, and the manufacturers again allow people to get trigger time. So a lot like the media day at SHOT Show, but you can just pay the admission price and get in there and shoot some rounds on the various pieces of equipment you might be interested in. And it's stuff that you can purchase. I think you can purchase stuff right there because it is kind of a gun show also. But you'll have to turn to Edge 4006 for the best coverage of that. He's the one that put it on the map and made it the event it is. I think they're on their second or third year now. Thanks to Edge for keeping that. And I guess it's nice for him to take the time out and take something like that under his wing, allow him to grow. I think he doesn't get enough credit for the time he spends on that kind of stuff.
He's got an S on his chest.
The next thing is the Big Sandy machine gun shoot, which is unlike the Knob Creek machine gun shoot because it's harder core. It's for actual machine gun owners, and then they open it up to the public. So I've only ever been to it, but I know it's better. So if you can handle it and you can get out there, you got to camp out there. It's the real deal for machine gun shoots, but it's the ultimate one. So if you're in Phoenix or Las Vegas, or you're going to be there on October 21st, it's usually right before Halloween, then you might want to consider checking that out. Even if you can only get out there for a day, it's worth it. It's like $20 to be a spectator, and you get every bit of that $20 in smiles.
Oh, yes.
Next thing on my radar is the National Association of Sporting Goods Wholesaler Exposition. I've mentioned that a few times. It's going to be on October 25th, and it is in Kansas City, Missouri. It's a lot like SHOT Show, but a lot like the outdoor show, but for sporting goods stores. So kind of a mix between SHOT Show and the outdoor show. It has a lot more camping stuff than SHOT Show, and a lot less of the behind the scenes like nylon manufacturers and grommet manufacturers and like the people that facilitate how a gun shop gets its boxes or its carpets and weird stuff like that. So it's more just for sporting goods stores, although they probably have all kinds of weird sporting goods stuff, like how they buy shoes or something, which might not be all that interesting. But I'm digging into the rest of the calendar because that's all that got displayed on the main page there. I think the next one on the radar would be the actual outdoor retailer show. No, I guess that one's just not showing up on the main page. That one's on August 6th, so that'll be actually much sooner. So the outdoor retailer show is in Salt Lake City, Utah. So if you need an excuse to go to Salt Lake City, use this. Salt Lake City is a pretty cool place to hang out for a while. At least in my experience, it's a nice place to be. It's beautiful and real friendly people. The outdoor retailer show is a lot like SHOT Show, as I just mentioned. It's the show for like sporting goods stores and outdoor stores. So it's a lot more kayaks and tents and boots and stuff than SHOT Show, but you still get a lot of the knives and compasses and night vision maybe and optics and stuff like that from SHOT Show. Hydration packs and that kind of stuff. So it's an excellent show. Again, if you're creating content, you'll have a year's worth of content by showing up there. It's not too difficult to get a press pass. It's in Salt Lake City, so as a gun guy, you're going to the Browning Museum as well, and there's other stuff in Salt Lake. Lots of gun shops. Just remember they close on Sundays because it's a Mormon town. Jumping down to the next page, finally. That brings us into November, I believe, which would be the Wanamaker's Gun Show, the biggest gun show in the world, is in twice a year, and then the next one will be in November in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Anybody who's interested in gun shows would want to experience that. It's an experience in itself. The show itself is probably your oldest and older stuff up to your World War II era, and a lot of hunting stuff. But if you're going there for AR-15s and AKs and modern stuff, or maybe well, I'd say that modern stuff, it's not necessarily the biggest show for all that. Of course, it's there because the show is so immense, but it's definitely more focused on the older stuff and the hunting stuff, and then the unique stuff. Anyway, it's an experience. This year we'll all be meeting up as Gun Channels people. I'll be meeting up there. We'll be going to the J.M. Davis Firearms Museum, which is one of the best, probably the best firearms museum on the planet. It's in Tulsa, and then we're going to also be doing the world's largest Gun Channels machine gun shoot that weekend. But that'll be for invite only for Gun Channels people. Sounds like Andalusia Armory is in a band or something. Are they are a band, or they are members of a band?
They're all musicians.
Right. But I think it's their band, right? Not a band that they are in, but their band, because they sound like they just made the decision. They're going to go up to Tulsa to hang out with everybody and then do a show up there or something. They know somebody who either owns a club or does book shows, so they're going to do some kind of, I don't know what they play in Arkansas. I'm guessing it's speed.
They don't live in Arkansas. You stop that.
Where is
It's
it?
Alabama.
Alabama, sorry. Hey, it's an A state.
I'm sure there'll be banjos.
All those A states. I was thinking it was going to be like speed death metal, like just a lot of shouting and headbanging.
I'm thinking more along the lines of country.
No, it's rock and roll, gentlemen.
Oh,
Rock and roll.
like classic rock?
I didn't specify.
Well, I'm asking.
I've never been to a show of theirs.
Well, I
No.
thought you may have heard after all the shows of theirs that you've listened to.
I always just jump to the conclusion of speed death metal.
It's
No,
an easy assumption to make.
Speed
But-
death
Okay.
metal with banjos.
So then the next thing on the radar would be the 15th of November, which is the anniversary of Gun Channels. I forget. Oh, 2013. So it'll be the 3rd-year anniversary of Gun Channels. So thanks to everybody for making that happen and keeping it going, because it's totally membership driven. Then we've got the Dallas Arms Collector Show in November on November 26th in Dallas, and I believe Bob and I will be at that one, set up there. Then we've got the SAR show coming up in December, the first weekend of December in Phoenix at the fairgrounds. It's a giant gun show from Crossroads of the West, but then the SAR, the Small Arms Review magazine, sets up an entire building of just awesome stuff. And
Is it loaded with NFA items, or is that, because I guess I'm trying to approach it from the SAR end, or is that what they have set up in their side building?
no, the side building is as large as most large gun shows. The rest of it is just an immense gun show. One of the largest gun show. Well, it is the largest gun show west of the Tulsa show that we talked about. The Tulsa show is 4 or 5 times larger. It's crazy larger. But as far as gun shows go, they're usually like a big building at a fairgrounds, or maybe indoors at an auditorium or something, and they're fairly large. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 large buildings at a fairgrounds. So it fills up literally like an entire Arizona State Fair fairgrounds, like everything they would normally have with animals and critters and shit. There is one building that's like the dirt on the floor, where the horse shit building. They don't go in there, but all the buildings that are like regular buildings with concrete floors and walls and stuff, that aren't just like cow buildings or whatever they are.
Exposition halls usually.
Yeah, with coolers and stuff, like those buildings are all full for this gun show, and they're able to fill that a few times during the year, but this is the big one, and that means all the people that do gun shows for a living will show up at this one because it can hold them all. And then in addition to that, there's a whole nother huge building that's, like I said, it would be the largest gun show in Arizona if the Crossroads show didn't happen, and that's just the Small Arms Review building, and that's just all their friends, Mark Krebs, Mike Friend, Bolter. I'm picking all the people I know. So anyway, the manufacturers show up. Gemtech, suppressor manufacturers, they all show up. And for the longest time, for literally, that was it. That was your chance to, as a regular person, to pay whatever it was admission price into the gun show, and then take a right and walk over to the SAR building, and then go to the table or whatever with Gemtech. For years, for decades, really, that was anyone's only ever possibility for interaction with like Gemtech or something, unless you happen to live next to a stellar gun shop that would bring gun or Gemtech or somebody down with all their products and have like a day at the range or something.
Like bring the rep down for an exposition almost for your shop, kind of.
And shops have done that, so I'm sure that kind of thing has happened throughout the years. But that was really your only opportunity, and it's still an opportunity for a lot of people to connect with the actual. Like if you want to meet Mark Krebs, you can either drive to Illinois or go to the SAR show.
It's funny. Some people in Illinois have still chosen not to go meet Mark Krebs. I wonder what's up with that.
He's busy. He doesn't like to drive.
Truly.
Unless I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, feel free to throw $1 into the tip jar over at patreon.com.
Yeah, get Dan on the road.
Yeah.
So then we got the SHOT Show coming up in January, and then the NRA show next April. So that's the big stuff on the list. Obviously, there's room for the littler stuff, the stuff that might not hit the national radar, and that's what we're here for. So if you do know of an event, you can, I guess the easiest way is just email it to us at dailygunshow@gmail.com. And we do this
I didn't
every.
even know that you took a breath during that whole time, G.
I'm passionate about everyone getting out there and see more heads out there. Let's not let them think that there's a lot of gun owners. Let's make it such an overwhelming, obvious fact that the political strategists just put down their fucking playbooks and pick up the, like, let's worry about pool safety. We can all agree on common sense pool safety. This isn't the Olympics. There's lakes. You know, people want to put a pool in their backyard to entice kids to drown. That's awesome. But I think there should be common sense pool safety, and I think we can all get together behind that, and let's just leave those guns to those people that want to do it.
That humongous voting block that we discount every time.
Just speaking for myself, I find it far too easy to let them, using those key phrases, to suck the energy right out of me, and rather than apply my energy towards things that might actually have an end result.
Speaking of suck the energy right out of you, are we going to go to the gun of the day with Bob, or are we going to go to the gun movie?
Let me hit the gun shop real quick. So one of the reasons we started the show in the first place, one of the reasons I'm doing the tour is to get out and experience more gun shops. I can't get enough of them. I think they're cool. I hope that is a shared interest with other people. So we like to feature a gun show or gun shop every day here on the show, and then we also like to take a second to offer anybody who wants to take some pictures or a video or an interview, or just send us a link to a cool shop in your area. Please do. We're interested in them. We want to feature as many shops as possible. And right now you can see I'm going over ones for the second or third time sometimes here, just because we don't have enough new ones. And there's more than 365 gun shops in this country. We should be able to do a new gun shop every day, right? So till I get on the road, we could definitely use as much contributions as possible, or people suggestion shops, or, like I say, ideally inspire you to get out there and get an interview. Ask them why the shop was created. Why did they bring their shop? What's it for? Like, what do they do that's unique? And let them riff on that for a little bit. I think that'd be interesting for people to hear about. Anyway, today we're doing a gun shop here in Tucson. It's one that we've been working with since the day they opened the door, basically. Tucson Guns. Started working with them back in 2004. They helped inspire us to even do gun-related stuff. Kind of unintentionally, we were building their website for them, and I was a gun guy, but I wasn't really doing anything gun-related online. I didn't work for anybody at the time, but I had worked at AOL, and I didn't necessarily, it wasn't anti-gun, and I wasn't super adamantly pro-gun or anything, not pro-gun rights or anything at the time. I was just, I had my guns. We just got through Y2K. We were in the assault weapons ban. Anyway, that's when I started working with Bob. He was just doing his thing and he didn't have the resources or time, any kind of resources, to really do stuff online. So in an effort to impress him and to impress potential other clients, I wanted his project, I wanted his shop to do well online. So I started to do stuff to enhance that on my own, and turned out that I really like doing that stuff a lot. And I didn't go to jail or anything for it, and I met a lot of cool people who were also interested in sharing in gun stuff online. So Tucson Guns in a lot of ways helped me to discover that gun websites was a thing that needed to be done. So it was pretty much when we started gun websites, and I kind of, for good or bad, decided to spend a lot more time paying attention to guns online, and that got me into being more of an activist. So that's where we got here today. So, and they've also helped financially along the way. Being the client allowed me to take time to do my own things, and they facilitated us being able to take, a lot of the pictures you see are from Tucson Guns or the other shops in town that let us do that. Tucson Guns is the kind of shop that if Bob's at the show, at a gun show, and I'm walking around and he needs to go take a break or eat lunch or something, I'll stand behind the table for him. He's comfortable with that. I did that for the longest time, and that allowed me to get into a lot of gun shows. Having that kind of relationship with a gun shop, and you can have that kind of relationship with multiple gun shops. At a gun show, you can have that relationship with just individual people as well. So if you are paying to get into a gun show, you're not networking enough at your gun shows. You need to go to a lot of gun shows and then network with people, and then you'll no longer pay to get into them. So anyway, Bob was one of the people that kind of helped me transition into knowing all that. And then same thing in his shop. I would come in, and if he was by himself and he needed to go to the bathroom or run a quick errand, I kind of just helped out. I'd stay there and make sure nobody stole nothing for a while, and then kind of had an agreement with him, like I'm not going to do anything that requires me to put my signature on anything. And after a few years of him being comfortable with me being there, and I eventually said, all right, well, I guess I'm probably not going to go to jail if I start doing some 4473s and stuff. And then I learned a lot about the industry from hanging out at that shop. So it's an interesting shop. I'm an advocate of it, not because they're paying me. The only reason I take their money, there's shops in town I will not take their money. Bob knows there's shops that I do not like, and I don't care what they pay me anymore. I would not take their money. They happen to owe me $360 right now, but but Bob is just a cool guy. He's there for the Second Amendment. He's retired his second career in. He's like his third or fourth career at this point. He's not making any money at the shop. I can tell you that. I don't think I'm selling any secrets or whatever. He's a brick and mortar, and he's not doing stellar over there. He's kicking, but the reason he's kicking is because they provide excellent customer service, ultimate knowledge, and the kind of experience that people don't really know they can expect from a gun shop. You go to a big store, brick and mortar, not brick and mortar, but a big box store, that's not a gun shop. That's a place that sells guns. You go to some of the larger stores with multiple locations, and you're back to a place that has to deal with hiring employees and dealing with costs, and they've become so much into the auditing and books and stuff that they just can't. There's not enough time to hire just good gun shop people. And then you get to your awesome gun shops, the ones that we like to feature every day, the ones that are usually mom and pop, maybe a location or two max, and they're there. They're there because they like some aspect of shooting, or they're there to support some part of the community, and that's what Bob's doing. They do a lot of military and police sales. We have Border Patrol down here. We have all kinds of border stuff. We've got Davis-Monthan Air Force Base with guys coming in and out for training. Then we've got all the SWAT teams and the various departments around here. And Southern Arizona is a huge place with very few big cities. It's just Tucson. So works with a lot of people. And again, that gave me a lot of networking. Just hanging out at the shop it's an awesome experience. You can just hang out there as a customer, and as long as you're not a jerk about it, and every once in a while you get them a pizza or something so they're comfortable with you being there, you learn as much from customers coming in and out of a gun shop as you can in any kind of internet conversation like this, or any amount of podcasts or anything. And it's better because you're talking to a cop, or you're talking to a federal agent, and they're either on the clock or off, but once they're comfortable with you, you can ask them questions and you can get actual knowledge. So again, that's the gun shop that facilitates that. And I'm not going to go talk to a federal agent at the bookstore so much. I'm not going to get that level of comfortability with somebody buying sausage. When you're at a place that's for the Second Amendment, and you're talking about buying guns, and you can hold your own in a conversation with a federal agent for a little bit about whatever it is he's interested in, an old shotgun or a cowboy gun or a new Glock or a AR-15 or something, and you can, again, just kind of hold your own in those conversations. That's something that you've got a bond there that you're never going to get. You might get it, I don't know, at a church or something, maybe, kind of a similar thing, but you're not going to get it at the bicycle store. You're not going to get it buying lettuce, right? It's not a crucial element of existence like a firearm is for a lot of people, and especially people that swore an oath to wear a badge. So anyway, gun shops facilitate that kind of stuff, and that's one of the reasons we focus on a shop every day, so that we can riff off into those aspects of it, and hopefully again inspire people to help your shop out. You can't imagine how much it helps out a shop to take that camera out of your pocket, ask them if you can take a few pictures, take those pictures and share them. And anyway, Tucson Guns, great shop. They help make all this. And they have a website, and they are on Gunbroker, so it's 2Gun Pete on Gunbroker. It has nothing to do with me, I don't think. I thought it was funny. And some old gunfighter. But anyway, they sell their stuff on Gunbroker, so if you've seen stuff on our videos, half the time you could buy some of that stuff off Gunbroker right away.
And it is a very nice shop, and like G was saying, it's super friendly. Like, I've talked to Bob a couple times, 2 or 3 times, and yeah, it's just the nicest guy you ever want to meet.
Talk to him. Hell, we've been at multiple gun shows standing next to each other, so.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to go to an establishment that allows Canadians in there.
Hey, they allowed me into every gun store down there, and Surplus, and you name it.
They just didn't know any better. They didn't know you, Bob.
Hey, they let me into the military base.
Now that is crazy. That's awesome, dude.
All right, so now we've got gun of the day. We've got the movie. Which we do? What's the gun anyway? Does the gun work with the movie? No, no, no.
No.
All right, so why don't we go with gun of the day? What's this one about? Or we can go with the movie. What's this one?
It's gun of the day, Spencer repeating rifle, which kind of goes with when we're talking about cartridges, it being one of the, I guess, one of the first or second cartridge gun accepted in the military service, or repeating anyway. The Henry came out and was first, but it was a much more expensive gun and not nearly as robust. The Spencer had a 7-round tubular magazine in the buttstock. And it
Please
was
don't say tubular magazine in the buttstock again.
Well, okay. But yeah, it's a very interesting rifle in that it is a lever action, but you have to cock it every round. Cock the hammer back. But it made
literally like a single action, really?
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of different, but like the guys could get pretty quick with it, so that wasn't a big deal. Plus, I mean, the Henry being a really neat, and it was your classic style lever action tubular magazine underneath the barrel. But it was a really kind of anemic caliber. It was, I don't know, 40-something rimfire, whereas maybe a 44 rimfire. But the Spencer was like a 56, I think, which is 56 grains of black powder behind a 56 caliber projectile. So, I mean, it had some real punch.
I'd say that's a big hole.
That is a big hole, and soft lead bullets back then too. So, and those would have probably been basically a mini round or mini ball.
Minier, but yeah, mini.
Tony's on the YouTube side is asking for a screen share. One, Bob doesn't have a screen share. We don't have the gun here or anything, and that's the reason why we're not screen sharing. I guess I'd go look on Google or something.
Yeah. Screen sharing is just far too complex for me. But no, it is a really interesting rifle, and like I say, it made a big difference in the Civil War. And they did find one of the advantages of the cartridge guns was when they were captured by the South. The South didn't have the technology or the industrial capacity to make the cartridges.
So they couldn't use them.
They could use them for as long as they had ammo that they'd captured, but after that they were SOL. And there, I think G-Webs has got some Spencers there. There we go. So yeah, the lever underneath, you worked that ejected your round, but I do believe you had to actually cock it before you ejected the spent round, or half cock, and then work the lever, close the lever.
Still faster than loading a muzzle, or a muzzle loader.
Yeah. Now the Henry, of course, you could just like bing, 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 and plus it held like 15 rounds. But like I say, it was a very anemic cartridge compared to the Spencer round. Very cool gun though.
Loaded up to the stock, you said.
As you can see, yeah, tubular magazine. Now the neat thing was, like, they would actually supply the cartridges to the troops preloaded in these tubular holders, right? So tubes. Yeah, so it was like having spare magazines, basically. Well, that's what it was. It was spare magazines, so you just drop the empty one out of the back, stuff a new one in, and away you go.
It's weird.
Now
they
that's
show
cool.
in the tube holders all the time, and they show how the tubes are in there. This is the only picture I've seen, though, where the tube is out of the gun.
Yeah.
Have you shot a Spencer?
No, I haven't. I've never had the opportunity. I'd love to. I think they just
shot it when I didn't appreciate it when I was a little kid.
Yeah?
I was thinking, say, I pulled the trigger on it, but not lately. They're too expensive. People don't really shoot them anymore.
That's
No.
amazing, though, G.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I did that. It took me to the range, so if you're not taking your kids to the range, then you're missing all those opportunities for some other guy to be there with a $25,000 rifle that you get to pull the trigger on. It wasn't $25,000 at the time, of course. It was just some old gun at the time, but my dad knew what it was and made a point. Not just for that gun. I mean, he made a point of making sure I could shoot whatever anybody would let me, basically. Didn't always appreciate it, but now I can act like a big man years later on the internet about it.
Life experience, my friend, sometimes has no denomination attached to it, or you know what I'm saying?
Yep. Anyway, so that was the gun of the day. Good one. So now we'll go to the movie. Uncommon Valor. Anybody seen this one?
Oh yeah, love this movie. I
Mm.
mean, you got Popeye Doyle, you got Remo Williams, I think you got Captain America, you got Dylan from well, okay, so basically what I'm getting at is you got Gene Hackman, you got Fred Ward, you got Reb Brown.
Dylan from or from Beverly Hills 90210?
No, you got actually Dylan from Roadhouse. I think that was what his name was.
I can't believe you haven't mentioned Patrick already.
Patrick who?
Swayze.
That's who I just did. But,
okay.
That's okay.
My bad hearing.
That's right. And then Tim Thomerson as well. One of my favorite. I don't want to call him a B actor because he be in a lot of movies, but definitely. And just such a good movie. It's kind of one of those ones where it's from the early 80s.
Yep, 83.
You know, it's the guy lost his son went MIA in Vietnam, so he tries to get his own private squad together to go find Americans in Laos.
Yeah.
And it's, it's 83, so it's Platoon. I think it's pre-Braddock. I think, Missing in Action. So, I mean, it's got all those stars that I was naming were heavy duty in the 70s, early 80s. Gene Hackman, Fred Ward, Reb Brown, Tex Cobb, Patrick Swayze, Tim Thomerson, Harold Sylvester. Like, literally, if you were around at that time, you knew those names.
Oh, yeah.
Readily.
The one thing I like to throw out there is this is the kind of movie that you don't have to go out there and search for it because it's available on Netflix, and that's really nice.
It might even be available on Prime and also on YouTube, perhaps, as well.
So, because sometimes the older classic movies are a little harder to find.
I don't know if we've even talked about that it's a Nam movie. So 10 years after his son goes missing in action, the guy assembles his own unit, basically, his own team, to go in and get him. I guess he discovers that he's still around. And they go out and they train and they go through the trials and tribulations of equipping themselves in Vietnam, and then doing this action to get his son and rescue the others who were in the prison camp. So it's sort of like Rambo, except if Rambo's dad went to go get Rambo.
Or it is like Chuck Norris in the original Missing in Action, where he does but he goes to Vietnam. These guys go to Laos.
Yeah,
and instead of getting the super duper Zodiac that Chuck Norris got in Missing in Action, which was super awesome, the Hog, the Huey, that was one of I really, really enjoy this movie. This is definitely one of those ones that I'm always going to recommend. No, it's not like it is a blockbuster like a Rambo or anything like that. It's not over the top acting, really. It's almost more of a drama, almost. But there's definitely action. There's definitely some twists and turns, and I'm always going to recommend Uncommon Valor. Whether you want to talk about it as a post-Vietnam movie, you want to talk about it as a gun movie, whatever you want to talk about it as, however you want to classify it, I personally am always going to recommend Uncommon Valor.
Yeah, I would agree. Because you got to remember, back when that movie was made, there was a lot of talk in the news about there still being American POWs either held in Laos or Cambodia or even in Vietnam, in areas of Vietnam. So there was something that was on people's minds.
Well, and you got to remember, still in the early 80s, let's just say that the Vietnam vets didn't receive so much of the fanfare then as some of the vets do now upon returning home. So, you know, that was still one of those things where sometimes it was almost taboo to talk about. So it was one of those movies that it succeeded in spite of itself almost.
I'm going to take a second to, I think, take in a different direction, but since we're talking a non-movie, and you guys were doing a lot of the, linking to a lot of the, an interesting segment of like YouTube videos where they were 70s era music, except instead of being the regular music video or whatever, they had Vietnam War footage along with it, and it was great. I went through and looked at a bunch of those, and it made me think as I was looking through those. If you listen to the lyrics in a lot of the music of the time, and then you look at the world situation at the time, we were still in the midst of the Cold War. Talk about, you know, a pessimistic potential for a pessimistic view of the future. Think about the time after now, and think about, like you just said, Z, the reaction that the troops, well, the situation that the troops came home to, then is not what we're living in now. So I know a lot of people have an agenda. You know, they have money to be made by keeping us in fear and thinking that the end of the world is right around the corner. And I don't want to be naive and suggest that there's no chance for a failure, but to suggest that this is the ultimate of all bad times and that we're at the culmination of something, I think that movies like this one and the chance to take a step back and think about the times that we've gone through as a nation, not us necessarily our generations, but we're aware of our generations that have got through that we can get through a lot together. And there was definitely a lot of racial stuff back then at a whole nother level, and we grew and came through that together. So there's no reason to suggest that we're not going to continue to be able to do that. It's not easy, but we're all about difficult challenges. So I think it was
You're talking about last night in the chat, in the external chat, when like Noah and I and a couple others started just posting links to videos, yes?
Yeah, I started looking at some of those and then seeing the stuff that was suggested. In fact, if you look at the daily schedule here in a few weeks, it's going to be our gun history segment. I thought that was pretty freaking neat that it's like a whole phenomenon over on YouTube that people are taking music of the era and matching it up with war footage, and it's
pretty, yeah, it's heavy duty. Like I know one of the ones that I posted was Barry Maguire, and you know, you can sing the words. You could
that guy's song.
Oh, it's heavy duty.
Yeah, it's like we're done. This is the end. Here's all the evidence. We're done for. So it was a great run, but this is why it failed. You know, just documenting the end here, and obviously it was nowhere near. So,
which is great.
It's kind of weird too that you think that it's a hippie being so pessimistic about everything. Kind of shows.
Oh, well, you also remember at that time that was like the flower power. That was the theory that that's the only thing that's going to overcome this. I mean, think about Kent State where the people put flowers in the barrels, which were not effective. But
yeah, flowers aren't bulletproof, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I definitely like what you're talking about, G. I think that'll be a great segment. Definitely looking forward to it for sure.
Yeah, thanks for inspiring it. So that was Uncommon Valor. We try to mention a movie that's cool that you might not have seen in a while, or if you're a little millennial kid, you've never seen any good movies yet, so we're trying to help you out as well. So stay tuned for more of those. We mention every once in a while, too, that if you have movies for us to put in the list, feel free to suggest them. So try to do one every day. Another thing we try to do every day is keep people aware that the thing that pulls the trigger is the most important part of any weapon system. So do a healthy tip every day, and I've kind of recycling some of these. I've used this one before, but I think it's applicable. It helped. It worked for me when I was trying to get healthy. Using an app, using Skynet on your phone to tell you how far around you've walked, and to then go the next step and tally your monthly miles. In other words, when you look at that app, the steps or whatever on it, it'll tell you how many steps in a day or how many steps in a week. Start looking at it just once a month and doing just little changes like parking at the other end of the parking lot instead of the closest to the handicap spots. Let little old ladies have those spots. Park way out there. And if you walk, I don't know, 2 miles a month or something right now, and you aren't doing much else except walking into the store to buy your pork rinds, and walking back out to the car, and you walk twice that distance, you've effectively doubled your amount of exercise that month, right? So when you're first starting, it's those little things that can help you kind of monitor and realize where you're at, and then it's super easy to accumulate and add and get better. And obviously, making the machine works better, makes you shoot better, makes you think better and react better. It's better. Anybody try these?
Better.
I mentioned it before. Did anybody ever download the app or start paying attention to that app?
No.
I'll keep bugging everybody. You can ignore that section of the show, or
I'll park at the other end of the parking lot. I got no problem. But as far as the app or the little bracelet, I have not done any of that.
I haven't done the bracelet, but the people I know that wear their little sparkly bracelet that attaches to their phone say that it's handy because then you don't have to carry the phone around. So I guess if you're walking around like a robe or sport shorts or something and yoga pants, then you don't want to have to carry your phone. I imagine you don't have a gun either, so maybe you can get some kind of app that'll yell out to somebody who has a gun. You have one as well.
A couple of years ago, I tried, not the one where it attaches to your phone, but the mechanical version of the thing that goes around your wrist, and it just didn't work very well.
No, they suck. I don't know what those things. I got a few of them. I got one free one time, and then my mom got one for joining the gym. She gave it to me, and then I bought one, and then all three of them. And I tried to use those at SHOT Show all the time because I was always curious, how much am I walking at SHOT Show? And yeah, they don't work for crap. I think they work for like the average sized person maybe, but how can they know? How can it be the same if little short guys walking around and big tall guys walking around? You know, it's got to be a different thing. So anyway, so that was our healthy tip. Do we have anything else? I think we're about done for the show for today. Yep. We blew it out of the water. We're way late again. We'll be working on it. We're kind of verbose today, I guess. We can blame it on Huck, though, for buying a new house. It made us spend a bunch of time talking about that. So tomorrow we'll be talking about the alternative gun topic, which will be the pop culture. Pop culture dictating the Second Amendment. And then our gun business section we'll be talking about gun bunnies. So it might be an interesting day to be available for the video version of that one, if you're interested in the research. And then we'll wrap up the week. With that, I will see you tomorrow.
All right. Well, I don't know if anybody else has got anything to add.
It's all yours, Bob.
All right. So we, as everybody knows, we like to end our shows with a quote. Oh, and I just want to apologize to the other guys for being late. Unfortunately, my clock I look at must be dead because it wasn't changing time. I didn't realize what time it was. But anyway, let's do our quote. And this one's by Noah Webster. He is one of the founding fathers. And before a standing army can rule, the people must be disarmed, as they are in almost every country in Europe. So, something to think about. And thanks everybody for watching and listening. We will see you all tomorrow.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America. This is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John